Hey everybody, what's up? So what we're going to be doing today is drawing geometric forms. So I'm going to start out with drawing a cube, and I want to show you something that I've seen students do when they're drawing cubes, which is, all right, we have a square here, we have another square kind of offset, and then boom, we connect the corners with these lines. So this does sort of show the shape of a cube, but it tells me that this cube is hollow because I can see all the way through it. So what we want to do is learn how to draw our cubes so that they're solid. And so what I'm going to do for that is actually start out kind of in a similar fashion. I think I'll use the other side. So we can start out with a regular square. So you have 4 equal sides at 90-degree angles. I am not using a ruler because I don't feel like it's necessary right now. The important thing when you're drawing a cube so that it's solid is that you're going to be drawing 3 diagonal lines that are the same length and the same direction from each of the corners. So if I look at each of these lines, all right, they're at the same angle. Okay, I can move my ruler and they're all, yep, same angle. And so what I can do now is actually just connect the lines to close the form. Okay, so now here's a cube that is solid. So what we want to do now is add a little bit of value. And let's say, I think I'll say that my light source is coming from here. So if I have a light source coming from this side, what I'm probably going to find is that this will be the lightest area because it's the closest to the light source. This face of the cube will be kind of in a medium value, so I'm just going to shade that real quick. And then the face that's the farthest away from the light source should be the darkest, and so I'm going to shade this accordingly. When you are shading your cubes and your spheres and your forms, go ahead and tell yourself where the light source is and just use your brain and think about, all right, well, if the light is here, where's going to be light, medium, and dark? All right, let's try this for another form. I'm going to use something round to trace so that I have a circle to begin with. So we're going to be using a sphere, and same thing for this sphere. I think I'll have my light source coming from this side. And so what I'm going to find is that because this area of the sphere is closest to the light source, it's going to be the lightest in value. So what I'm going to do is actually shade from the other side. When I shade, I normally will do something kind of like this and draw like a little like crescent moons to sort of tell my brain like, all right, well, this area should be the darkest. So I can just kind of come in here and start shading that. When you are looking at spheres in real life, you'll see that there is like a gradient. So the shadows normally kind of fade from being dark to being light. And that's what I'm going to try to put in here. The reason that I drew these lines at the beginning was just to sort of help myself, get started on the angles for how I'm going to do the shading. And all right, I also noticed that I'm shading kind of in a round way. So I'm not shading just in straight lines. I'm shading kind of like around the surface of the sphere. So I want to change it from being just a regular circle into being something that's actually 3-dimensional. So I'm going to kind of just continue to do this, and so I'm getting a little bit lighter and lighter in value as I'm getting closer to the light source. I will actually shade a little bit here on the outside edge, and all right. Here we have something that resembles a sphere, and if I don't like part of it, I can erase it or change it. But to me, I think this looks appropriate for a 3-dimensional sphere. So yes, we're gonna just shade these so that they're darker, farthest away from the light source, and then gradually getting lighter as it comes closer. Okay, let's look at another form. Let's try a cylinder. With a cylinder, we're gonna start out with this shape called the ellipse. So the ellipse is something like this. It's kind of like a squished oval. So short and fat, and that's what we'll put here. So we'll start with one ellipse. What we want to do is kind of pay attention to the shape of this ellipse, and I'm gonna need to like echo the shape of this line below. So once I have my first ellipse, I can draw 2 straight lines kind of going down, and then, okay, the same curve that this is here, I'm gonna put the same curve below. A lot of times what I see kids do is to have, they'll have their ellipse and then they'll draw the lines for the column and then they'll draw a straight line here, which is, it's almost right, but it's not quite right. The bottom line needs to be curved. So make sure when you're doing these that you don't draw your line on the bottom straight. Make sure it's curved. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we're also going to consider, okay, let's see where the light is coming from. So the top of the sphere will, or sorry, the top of the cylinder will be pretty light because my light source is kind of coming at the top. And similarly to how I shaded the sphere, I'm going to shade the edge of the cylinder to be the darkest, and then gradually that will become lighter and lighter as it gets closer to the light source. So when I am shading, yes, I am going to just make sure that part of it is lighter and part of it is, okay, gradually becoming darker. That seems fine. All right, let me see. What if when you're looking at this and it looks a little strange to you, you might, you could add a little bit of like extra information on the top, or just give like a really light layer to the whole space. That would be fine. Just the main thing for when you're doing the cylinder is that you have a gradient on the round part. Okay, let's look at a pyramid. So pyramid, generally these start as triangles, and so I will put one here. If my pyramid is facing me, okay, that's fine. Got the triangle that's facing the viewer, and then what I'm going to do is draw another kind of straight line going out, and I will connect these diagonals here. So here's a pyramid. If my light source is coming from, I guess we can put it from here. This part will be the lightest, and then this part will be the darkest. When you're shading flat forms, they're a little bit easier, I think, because they're not so, you don't have to think as much about like how you're going to shade. Just like the faces themselves have different values. So the face that's closest to the light source is the lightest. The face that's the farthest from the light source is the darkest. And we see the same thing for the cube. It's just 3 different values. With things that are round, you have to think a little bit more because you have to actually show like the gradual change in the value. If I'm looking at a cone, I'm gonna kind of take a leaf out of the pyramids book by starting out with, a pointy triangle kind of thing, but the difference here is that the bottom will have the same kind of ellipse as the cylinder, and the same thing, we're gonna try to shade it so that it shows a gradient. So I'll put my light source over here. Where you put the light source, it can be totally up to you. And kind of again, with the same things with the round forms, we're going to shade it in a gradient. And so what that means is like, all right, again, the farthest away from the light source is darker, and the lightest is, or the closest to the light source is the lightest. Okay, so these are what we're going to do today. I want you to draw and shade a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, a pyramid, and a cone.